computer. I'm going to start the recording. It just so I've got it. Really, it's not going to go at many places. So brilliant. Thanks very much for coming along this afternoon. It is. I'm looking out my window and it's very sunny. Clear blue skies. It's very sunny. I've not put the heating on yet though, so it's a little bit nippy, but that's not to worry. Let's just let another person in there. So I'm ready to get going really. So thanks again for coming along. Virtual leadership. Welcome along to today's session. It's going to be as interactive as possible because I'm in my office at home and I've never had an office job. I don't really want an office job, so I'm not used to just talking to a screen or a little camera that's there. So if we can make it as interactive as possible, that's great. You can. I have done this session before, so I kind of know what slides are coming up. If you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Put your hand up or just ask, and it's not a problem. I'm quite happy to. There'll be time at the end of the session to ask questions. But for sure, anything crops up into your mind, just ask it, and I will answer, or I'll endeavour to answer as soon as I can. So the webinar is kind of generic, really, because we've got all different types of businesses, size-wise, and business people on board on the session. But as a gift or a thank you gift, I've got two little gifts up my sleeve, which I'll come to at the end of the session, so that we'll be able to do that. I will be sending through the slides, so providing I've got your email address, I will be, or your LinkedIn. We're connected on LinkedIn. I will send through the slides. So I know I like to write things down and learn to helps me remember and learn. But don't worry about scribbling lots and lots of notes. Trying to keep up really. So just to let you know that the slides will come out to you if that's okay. So with that in mind, let's get moving. So that's Steve. I'm Steve Saunders, as you know. Let's get onto the next slide. This is just me, just a touch on me really. It's me with some clients. There's me, we've just come back from our holiday in Turkey, and that's me with my wife and lovely 3 daughters. So that's where I'm trying to pull on your heartstrings for a bit of sympathy in the audience. The men on board or the ladies on board, imagine living with 4 women, but interestingly, come tomorrow, there'll just be my wife and I, because the other 3 have flown the nest. So it's like, wow, they're going to be gone, or gone. So there's some me in action when we were doing face-to-face actual presentations, which was great. And then myself and a few of my clients busy having some fun. So let's move on. Interestingly, then, I came across this slide. I thought, wow, I'm going to use this wherever I go as much as I can, really. And it's a really good slide in a mindset concept, really. So we can't adjust the wind, but we can adjust our sails. So we can't control many things in the world and in the economic environment, etc. There's many things we can't control, but the one thing we can control is our response and our actions. So be aware of what we are looking to do, and I'm all about what we can do rather than what we can't do. So let's be thinking of what we can do, and how can we adjust our sails accordingly. And that boat there looks like it's really tanking along really quite fastly. So the only failure on the session really today, the only failure is to not participate really. So unfortunately I can't see too many of you on screen, so hopefully you're not making a cup of tea or whatever, but if you participate, if you give 100%, you'll get 100% out. So if you're full attention and participating, that would be great. I'm just Parashin, how Paya. So full participation, please, if you could. Let's just looking at just to get things moving. We're on a plane here, and the plane is about to take off. And this is a ski resort, a Telluride in America. And anyone know if they could put into the chat box or shout out how fast the plane needs to get to take off before it actually takes off? Do you know what speed a sort of holiday plane would take to get you moving? So any ideas of how fast a plane needs to travel? If you can pop that in the chat box, that would be great. Or shout out, anyone. Let's have a look. Having a clue. That's a good one. 400 miles an hour. Wow, that'd be fast, isn't it? That's fast. 290 miles or kilometers per hour. Yeah. 200 miles. Oh yeah, Sean, you're close. I think it's about 180 miles an hour. So well done, Sean. I think you get a top prize there for being the closest. Thanks for that. So yeah, about 200 miles an hour. So we'd want the pilot to be participating, particularly at the start of the journey, and perhaps particularly at the end when he's landing. Or he or she, when they're up in the air, maybe not so much participation. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea. Well, there are key points where we need to be paying attention. So hopefully we can do that, and we'll move on. So I just want to sort of show hands up, put my hands up. Hannah, I can only see you. So if you just put your hand up, you're going to take one for the whole team. Brilliant. So we've got about 20 people or so on the call, which is great. Perfect. Now then, let's get moving. And Emma, you put your hand up. Now then, it's a great time to be a leader. And the sort of song that comes to my mind really is a Billy Ocean song, and it's quite an older song really. So when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Because being a leader or being in a person of responsibility, it's really easy when things are really easy. It's just easy. But when things get a bit more difficult, a bit more challenging, that's the time to step up. So when things get tough, it is a good time to show your mettle, as it were. So when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So we want to be get going and leading. Interestingly, this kind of comes from a change curve. I'd imagine some of you may have seen this before, but I did use this to start with when COVID first came along a couple of years back now, really. So initially, we were in shock. It's like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. And then it kind of was a denial, a bit of, well, it's something that's happening in China. It probably won't come to us. So it probably won't happen here. But then as soon as it did, it's like an anger and frustration builds up. Why us? Why me? Why is it happening to us? And then you move into depression, thinking, oh no, this is really going to be, what can we do? What we're really struggling about this. And then coming through the other side, really, acceptance, we kind of accept the situation and say, right, okay, this is it. This is what we need to do. And hence the sort of creation of webinars, really, in Zoom. And I mean, Zoom has really taken off, and working from home has changed the working landscape forever. It's just changed, isn't it, for sure? So we're now in this problem solving mode where we're continually looking to solve problems and worry about and look at things for what we can do, rather than not so much worrying about what we can't do, because we can't really affect that. So hopefully that sort of change curve kicks in. And interestingly, we've got a mindset slide here that's really key to everything we talk about, really. And this is called the line of choice. So you can choose in the morning when you wake up to be below that line. And if we're lying in bed in the morning, we can decide, right, okay, we're going to look to blame other people. So we're looking to let's blame Putin for invading Ukraine. Let's blame Donald Trump. Always used to blame him, but can't blame him anymore. There's lots of people you could blame, or lots of things you could blame. And then the next one down really is excuses. So we can make excuses for things not happening. So really a great excuse might well be, I didn't get around to doing my homework, if you're going back to school days. But the dog ate my homework, or the cat was sick on it, whatever, some kind of excuse. A great one for adults is, I was caught in traffic. And you kind of think, well, did you really think you were going to be the only person driving around in the traffic? Probably not. So it's quite a nice excuse. And then the worst trait there, and this below the line, would be denial. So some people are living in denial. They think they're really good. They think they're doing a great job. They're looking to blame other people and make excuses. So they're kind of in denial, and it's not a river in Africa. So it's denial. It's probably the worst trait, because I'm sure you've all met people that are of that ilk, that are looking to blame and make excuses. So we don't want to be there. We don't want to be below that line. We want to be above that line. So we want to be responsible. So we're responsible for our actions. So as a human being, we are responsible for the things we do. We're not like a salmon that has to swim upstream to the place where it was spawned. We're not geese that fly south when it's cold. They'll be flying south and getting into warmer climates. We are responsible for our own actions. So it's responsible, slight play on words there. And then when the next level up is we're accountable. And I think that probably the difference between accountable and responsible may well be that you're being held to account. So you're going to put a number on it. So I'm responsible for turning off the lights or shutting the door or locking the showroom, locking the premises. But we're going to be doing it at 5 o'clock every evening. And that's sort of timing based rather than something that's not fixed and not put into a program at all. And then the next one up there is ownership. So you should be looking to own whatever it is. So interestingly, when we used to do training sessions with people from the kitchen industry, and I would say, well, who do you work for? And everyone would say, oh yeah, I work for Magnet, I work for Regions, I work for MFI, whatever. And it's like, no, you work for yourself and your family. You just happen to have a paycheck that comes from that particular company if you're employed. And obviously if you've got your own business, you've got to take ownership. It's your business, so it's the buck stops with you. So hopefully that makes sense with the ownership, accountability and responsibility. They're all above the line, really. Below the line, you're looking probably at reasons why things don't happen as opposed to results of why things will happen. So we're looking at results. We're a results-based business. We want to look at results and do things and then monitor what the results are. So again, we're looking for people that have got some energy and got some oomph and getting going, and they're forward-thinking, positive people with a positive mindset, as opposed to people that you meet that suck out the energy. And I know everyone meets those guys and you just think, well, I was in quite a good mood this morning when I woke up. Now I've been surrounded by these guys and all my energy is just sapped away and I've been drained of my resourcefulness. So we want to be above that line rather than below that line. So what I'd like to do, just as a sort of sharing exercise, we're Thursday today. So have a little think, just for a quick few seconds. During the course of this week, so just this week, on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 would be in the middle, 10 would be you're smashing it, you're totally owning everything you've done this week, and 1 or 0 would be you're really in a bad place. You're really in denial, moaning and groaning and making excuses for everything. So let's have a look and see if we've got if you can put some numbers in. I've got no way of challenging, checking. There's no right answer. You can dip below the line. I had my call with my coach yesterday and I was moaning and groaning about certain things, but then I just change the switch and go, right, okay, I've done with that. I've got it off my chest. I'm happy again. I'm moving forward. So let's have a look. We've got some numbers coming in now, which is great. Oh, great. So Hannah 7, Emma 8, Mary 8, Sean 8, Hannah 8, Angela 8, Connie 7, Esperanza 8, Nikki just a 5. Oh, all right. On the bedside, I didn't feel well. True. Yeah, can happen, can't it? Brilliant. Thanks for your honesty. Yeah, if you're not feeling very well, it's difficult to be positive and upbeat. Brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. So be aware that, all my girls know when they're being below the line or above the line. We want above the line behavior. So thanks for that, for sharing those. Let's move on. So we've got some rules. I think there's 12 rules we're looking at, really, and we're trying to get through we all get through all 12 as the session continues. So rule number 1 is leadership first, location second. So it doesn't really matter where people are, they're still leading. So whether you're leading and you're remotely leading or from the same office, it doesn't, the skills and strategies that you need don't change really. It's just how you deliver those rules and settings and the culture that you create. So ask yourself these sort of questions really. This is for you as the leader. How do we know people are really working? So how do we know how people are working? And that's it's probably not a rhetorical question. If you can pop in some in the chat box, how do we know that people are working? That'll be something that you can pop into the chat box. How do we know? Let's see if we're getting some. Yeah, results. Perfect. We see results. Yeah, based on results. Perfect. Brilliant. Communication. Super from Emma. Results. So we've set a task or set something to do. We've communicated that. And then we've got some feedback, haven't we, really, to see if it was actually working. So how do we know if our people are really working? Because they could be just watching TV all day long or listening to the radio or whatever. So who knows? So another question to ask perhaps is, are people getting enough social interaction? So again, this is in the height, you cast your mind back to the height of lockdown. You weren't allowed to go out really. So it's all very well if you're in a big family and busy family. Wasn't too bad for us. There was 5 of us living in our house. But if you're on your own, how would we know that people are getting enough social interaction? Certainly, I think this is something that's going to come down the track for younger folk, especially when they're going off to a new role or a new job somewhere else in the country. How are they going to get their how are they going to be interacting with people socially? I mean, my youngest is busy at Freshers, or she's just finished Freshers Week at Nottingham Uni, so she seems to be getting plenty of social interaction at the moment. More of a sort of liquid base for sure. Yeah, so I've got Emma. A lot of people still tell me that they're lonely. Yeah, working from home. Again, hands up. How many hermits do you know? I don't know hermits. People are social beings, aren't they, really? So we want to make sure that you're touching base with the people that are working for you and with you, for sure. Have those sort of times to check in. And number 3, it's just these 4 really. Are we getting good feedback when we need to consider options? So again, if we're in an office space, it's quite easy to call everyone together. Can you just get together for 10 minutes, 5 minutes or let's go make a coffee and get together. It's quite easy then to gather information. But when we're getting feedback, when we're looking to change direction or looking to pivot and change our position on something, how are we getting that good feedback? And how do we know that it's the right feedback that we're getting, really, or it's coming from the right place? And probably the 4th there, that can we be as effective as when we were co-located? And certainly this seems to be a muted subject, really. How can are people working effectively when they're working from home as opposed to working in an office or another environment? Obviously, some places, factories and shops, you need to be in there, and restaurants and hospitality, you need to be there, don't you, really? Whereas other areas you perhaps don't need to be. So again, four little questions there to get you thinking, just to get you started. So that'd be rule number 1. Rule number 2. So leading remotely requires you to lead differently. So it's going to be slightly different. So 2 main areas really for this, and that's communication. How do you communicate? It's much more of you need to make much more of an effort if you're working remotely rather than if you're all in an office. It's easy to say, oh, have you got a minute? Have you got a minute? Or can you just nip over here, or I'll go and see someone? It's really easy, isn't it, to do that? Whereas if you're all working from home, what are you going to do? Is it a text message? Is it a video conference call? Is it an email? How is it that you're going to communicate, really? And interestingly, often leaders think they're kind of isolated. I know in certain offices you see the boss, they've got their own little separate office, and they're isolating themselves deliberately into that little office. Well, that's exaggerated now, with working from home, because they definitely are isolated. So how can you overcome that emotional fear of being isolated? So there are things that you need to be aware of and encourage your team to take part and communicate on that on a regular basis. So we've got a team there. Let's take a little drink. Cool. Right. So next rule. Working remotely requires interpersonal dynamics. So we're looking at virtual communication does change the way we can communicate, because we lose that face-to-face and non-verbal feedback. I know when you're looking at body language for people, it's quite difficult to see. I don't always I'm wearing my glasses, so I'm going to need to read it. But if I was meeting you face-to-face, I don't need to be wearing my glasses. So again, you can see my eyes clearly and see what's happening, and I can ask questions and see in your eye, look in your eye, and see if you understand that. Or certainly, we were talking about this earlier about communication. Some things you can certainly get away with saying when you're face to face, but I wouldn't dream of writing in an email, because it would be it may be considered rude or inappropriate, really. But I think if you can see someone and you've got that face to face communication, it's going to help things along, really. So you need to be aware of that face-to-face and non-verbal feedback. So make sure your message is easily understood. So if you're writing out things, make sure it's coming from a place where it's not ambiguous. I know in Britain we're quite good at sarcastic comments, or oh, that was really good, not, or that, those kind of things. Don't do that when you're writing. Make sure the message is clear and easy to understand. Otherwise, you will get into trouble on things. Rule number 4, we're looking at leading successfully requires an understanding of what people are thinking, not just doing. So leaders must be seen. So you need to be seen by must see rather, and be seen. So again, are you being seen by your team against are you seeing? So let's ask a question here for the chat box, please. How do you think? So if when everyone was working from remotely, and if you are still working remotely, how do you think you were seen by your team? How often were you seen? So seen. So do you think others could get that information and from you as the leader? Were you seen, or have you kind of disappeared, or where are you? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 would be your super seen, 1 to 2 would be a lower down score. And again, I've got no way of checking that. It's just a feeling that you can create, really. So if you could pop some numbers in there, that would be great. Hopefully that makes sense. So how are you seen? Yes, rather than disappearing, really. So we've got, cool. We have systems that allow us to be seen in many ways. 9, brilliant. That sounds good. And that's from, where's it, 9? Yeah, Angela. Thanks, Angela. Emma, 7. Yeah, Esperanza, 7. 8. Yeah, we use MS Teams with a camera on policy for weekly team meetings. Brilliant. Yeah, camera on. You can then see what everyone's up to. Some days, not at all. Other days, Teams doesn't stop. Yeah, so it's interesting. So there's an interest in mix. Daily meetings and chat messages throughout the day. Brilliant. That's super. So that's 9. 6 monthly Zoom meetings. Yeah, 6. Yeah, one daily meetings. So there's different ways, aren't there, really, of being seen. And if you feel that if that number is lower, what do you need to have a think on? What do you need to do to make that number higher? Those that have got that number high, brilliant, because that's what we're after, really. And what could 9? What can you do to get to 9.5 or 10? I'm always one that you can be better. There's always a better way. So 9 had an extra WhatsApp group and 24-hour helpline set up. Yeah, brilliant. That's a great one. How many? I wonder how many. What the record WhatsApp groups people have got now. We'll have anyone you meet up. Let's have a WhatsApp group. It does seem to make sense, and it really makes it easy to communicate. Super. Thanks for that. So roll 4 there. Look, can they see what you're doing, gathering information? Oh, one more, sorry, one sec. Yeah, 9 weekly one-to-ones, perfect. Thanks, Connie. That's great. One-to-ones is a perfect thing. That meeting flow of when are we going to meet up on a basis with the people that that are reported into us, which is perfect. So rule number 4 is there. So that think about the impressions that you're making. And again, are you visible to your team and what are they seeing? Yeah, so that was 1 for 4. Now then, I love this, and I kind of bet my coach that I wouldn't be able to get this, or she said, oh, I won't be able to get this into a webinar, and I said, oh, I bet you I will. If those of you know the sketch, it's the 2 Ronnies, and it's actually the 4 candles sketch. So it's 4 candles, play on words, and it's in this one. Why I've got it in is you'll see it now. It's the 3 O's. So it's O's and not hose. So let's just put in, we're looking at the 3O model. So he's looking for O's, hose, not O's. So that's why I've got that in. I quite like it. I'm laughing, so it's quite funny for me. But it does age you, doesn't it, really? I think that's not everyone's going to be aware of that. Certainly people from different countries, it's very interesting to put that on there. So the 3 O's, 3O model, really, we're looking at outcomes. So we're looking at reaching, oh, hang on one sec, there's a little chat thing, there's chat. Yeah, love that sketch. Perfect, Nikki. Yeah, brilliant. That's one of the best, isn't it? Fantastic. So outcomes, reaching a desired outcome at the meeting. What is it you're trying to achieve? I was talking to my coach yesterday and she said, oh, I said, oh yeah, I've got this video tool I can use, blah, blah, blah. She goes, well, what's the outcome? What do you want? I said, so what? I'd like some couple of new clients. Oh, right, okay, that's what the outcome is. So we can then work backwards from it. So always looking at what is the outcome rather than having a meeting for a meeting's sake, for sure. Others. So the other 2 of the O's, others. So lead with engagement and inclusion. So make sure you're including people. Interestingly, from personal experience, my best boss always said, thanks very much, Steve. We spoke pretty much daily during the week, for sure. When we did a lot of traveling around, and we'd speak quite daily, not always about work, lots of other different things about what we were up to and football or whatever and whatever. But interestingly, we were always talking and communicating, and I always felt included in any decision making. So what should be our next promotion, for instance, I was always asked for my opinion. It wasn't always taken, but that's fine. But I was always asked. And the flip side, if you flip it the other way, my worst boss at the start, I thought, wow, this guy's going to be brilliant. Because to start with, he let me get on with everything. He never spoke to me at all. And I thought, oh, brilliant. This is great. He obviously trusts me to crack on and get things done. But over a period of time, and I can't remember looking back on it, but certainly over a period of time, my thoughts changed to, this chap doesn't actually care about what I'm doing. And that was a real downer really on my motivation. So I thought, well, instead of just letting me trust me to get on with it, he was the one that just let me get on with it because he didn't really care what we're up to. And I couldn't never asked for my opinion, which was really shocking, really, when you look back. So I've kind of had that experience in the same company of having a really good boss and a terrible boss. So that's inclusion and engagement, really. So look on that. People don't usually leave jobs, they leave people they're working for, not the job. It's not the job, it's usually the person they're working for or with that they will probably leave. So that's others. And then the 3rd O there in the 3 O's model is ourselves. So evaluate your beliefs and assumptions. So again, how do you know that people are doing that work? How do you know that they are working well? Have you set up things so that you've got some key performance indicators that indicate they are doing well? I've got people, some of my clients at the moment, they're working with teams of people, and it's like, well, who's your best person for this particular task? And more importantly, how do you know? Is it that you just like that person? or is it that you can prove it? So a good phrase, rather than prove it, probably a nicer phrase is, have you got some evidence to support that? And you go, oh yeah, here's a spreadsheet with some figures of sales. Is an easy one, isn't it, really? These are the number of quotes I've done. These are the numbers. This is the amount of business that's been brought in by those quotes, and you can work out your conversion rate quite easy. Some other areas it's a lot more difficult to measure. So they will certainly address any trust issues you have with any of your team. So how do you work out? So don't just think, oh, I think they're doing a good job because I happen to like them, or I think they're doing a bad job because perhaps you don't like someone. So it's got to be about some real quantifiable measures, really, that you've got in place. So hopefully that outlines the 3 O's, really. So you're looking at outcomes for all your meetings, others, so make sure they're included. And then we're looking at our assumptions, so ourselves, looking at ourselves, what are our beliefs? What do we hold to be true as it is at the moment? So that's level rule number 5. Let's move on to rule number 6. Oh, someone's just come. That's good. So seek feedback to best serve outcomes other than ourselves. So feedback-wise, we've got files, emails, notes, for instance. Identify people you trust. So develop trusted advisors. You can get a little management team around you. So people that you trust in the team. Ask open-ended questions. So be open and honest. Be patient. Again, if you're working offline, remotely, be patient to get the answers coming through. Yeah, just be patient and allow preparation. Don't spring things on. Oh, we're going to have a meeting. Right, in 10 minutes' time, we're having a meeting, or we're going to have a meeting tomorrow. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, I've got to prepare things. So have some respect for other people as well. Here, there's a lion. Now, the reason I've got this lion is here. It's a great one for when we said about having meetings, and I think one of you said we have one-to-one meetings. Well, a great way of setting an agenda is thinking of the acronym LION. So LION. So we'd meet, say, on a Monday. So we meet on a Monday morning. We'd all meet together, and it's a group there. So we could then think in the L stands for last week. So what were the issues that happened last week? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's last week. The I is for any issues that we're looking at this week. What are our issues? So what may or may not be happening? And then the other one would be the O is opportunities. So what opportunities are there coming down the track? I worked with a gardener for a number of years, and we'd always drum into their team to say, right, while you're there, you may just be cutting the lawn, but is there any other things? Have they got a compost bin? Have their fences blown down in the heavy winds that we've had lately or a little while back? What else is there? What other opportunities are there for us to grow our business? And it's about being open to those ideas. So what opportunities are there? And then the N would be next week. So what are we going to be doing next week? So we're looking at those kind of things coming up. So it's quite a nice little way of a lion agenda, really. So it's last week, issues, opportunities, and next week, depending on, and it will change slightly depending on when you have the meetings. But certainly, if it's probably a rule is 7, or you really can have 7 direct reports anymore, and it gets slightly too many, but certainly 7 seems to be the number of business that people can work with. Have 7 reports, 7 people reporting into you directly. That shouldn't be a problem, and you should be able to cope with those numbers. Should be is the key bit there. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Rule 7, building trust at a distance doesn't happen by accident. And it is this word trust, isn't it, really? So if you trust things to happen, do you trust your team to deliver on the work that they're doing, that they're scheduled to do. So remote leadership means trust is harder to build and easily broken. So again, I think the great thing about working from home is, as long as the work gets done and I trust that person to do the work, I'm not really that concerned of whether they do it first thing in the morning or really early in the morning, they have a break in the middle of the day, or they could do it in the evening or late at night. As long as it's within the time frames, it can be entirely up to that person, to how they want to fit in the work, rather than why should things just be in a 9 to 5 space? Why is that? Where's that all come from? It doesn't really make sense, does it, really, to sort of cram things in? So some days will be some people are real early birds, and some people are late owls, really. So it's trying to find out which people are which, really. So having trust, really, we're looking at 3 areas there. So we're looking at a common purpose. So do you and your team have the same purpose? Do you know where the business is heading? What's your golden rule, really, or where are you heading? What's the mission statement and values and common purpose? What's your why for your business? So could it be, oh, we aim to be the best? So Hannah's there, a HR consultant. So Hannah could be, right, I want to be the best HR consultant in Hertfordshire. And then once you're that, it's like in the Southeast, then it's England, then it's UK, then it's Europe, then it's the world, whatever you want to. Obviously, if we're American, it would all be the world, but where you can start and pitch it wherever you like. So does the team know where we're meant to be getting to as a business? And then competence there, number 2. So are your people able to do the job? So do they get it? And can they do it, really? And then the third bit would be motives. Are they willing to do it? You know, are they willing? Is their mindset set that they are going to go the extra mile? And a great thing about, service-wise, in the service industry, for instance, say Nikki in her hotel at Cromwell in Stevenage, it's really easy to smile, say thank you, ask for a please and thank you, polite manners goes a real long way, because there's an awful lot of people that you don't get that service. So it's in some ways it's quite easy to shine and be out there. So it's going that extra mile. It's not really a mile. This could be a couple of feet that you're doing. It's not a difficult amount, really. So on that trust front, really, what's their attitude like, their motive? So attitude is really another word for that. Competence, can they do the work? Are they able to do it? Have I given the person enough training and resources, and I've taught them how to do it, rather than just what's the difference between delegating and abdicating? Delegating is explaining things and helping people to do things, whereas abdicating is just saying, right, off you go. One of my, Katie's downstairs at the moment doing some of her work. I could have just swapped and said, fine, Katie, you're doing this webinar. I mean, that would have been totally probably better for you, but certainly I wouldn't feel good about it, because I would have just be abdicating my responsibility to let her get on with it, really. So be aware that are there people competent, and it might be through no fault of theirs, really. So I'll let someone else in. And then that common purpose, really. Has everyone got, are they all on the right track? So that's rule 7. So we've got things of rules of the game. Do people know the rules, really? And that's a good thing for aligning people to your way of thinking and the business's way of thinking, for sure. What's the culture of the business? Now then, moving on. So Smarties. There's a reason why the Smarties are up there. I'm sure everyone's heard about goal setting and SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, results orientated, and time bound. But I like to add IE, so it's interesting and exciting. So they're things that people want to do and want to jump out of bed and get going, really, rather than things that are. I did have one client, and he said, "I said, well, what are your goals then for this year?" He says, oh yeah, I want to be more tidy. And you think, tidy? What, a tidy desk? That's what you're going to be jumping out of bed to do? I don't believe you. In the mornings, you're not going to be doing that. You certainly won't be thinking about that. We talked about it longer, and it was like, actually, it was, well, no, I'd like to go off to travel across America, travel across Australia. And there's all these things that were coming out as much bigger goals, much more exciting, much more interesting, and much more likely to get him to be working on the business as he should be, really. So ask yourself, really, what are the quantity components of the work? So how many times do you need to pick up the phone, perhaps? Or how many people how many emails do you need to send out? How many letters do you need to write? How many phone calls do you need to make? And then within that time frame and time factor, is it set over a week, a month, a year, a quarter? How much is it set across on time-wise? And then how's the quality of the work determined and measured? So is it, I've got lots of quality, lots of appointments, initial appointments, but the quality of the people aren't there. They're just not going to the next level. So what can we do to remove any sticking blocks and areas that are getting in the way, really? What's stopping us from being more successful? So look at the quantity, time, and the quality of those areas that you're looking at. And those measures should be there for each individual's got its own, key performance indicators, or the other one is key performance activity. So key performance activities. So they'll be there as well, really. So look at rule 8 is focus on achieving goals. So that goes back to results. So if we've got a goal, we've got the goal to set, and it's a realistic, specific, smart goal with a smarty goal. And then we're looking to go from there, which would be great. So looking at number 9, so leading successfully requires achieving goals of many types. And again, linking into the goals we've got here, organizational goals. So these are the goals that are as a group. So it could be for Action Coach, it could be Action Coach globally. So that's an organizational goal. So with clear targets and frequent discussions. So the goal is for Action Coach, the vision really is world abundance through business re-education. That's the Brad Sugars vision, if you like, for Action Coach globally. So that would be an organizational goal or outcome. Team outcomes, so that would be shrunk down into the UK as a team. So what are the team in the UK doing to work towards this bigger goal that Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach, has? So what are the team goals? And then individually, what are the coach's own individual personal goals and outcomes? So it's personal, team, and then perhaps organizational. So those are different levels of goals that many people are working towards. So hopefully that makes sense. So written goals. Just as a show of yay or nay, I'm just wondering if people have got written goals that are either written down, or they're in the head, or you haven't got any at all. So I'll just I'll throw that out there, and if you want to pop in anything in the chat box, that would be great to see if you've got any goals, or if they're written down or just in your head. Ideally, everyone knows that they should be written down. They're much more likely to come to fruition. So on that note, I'll move on. Really cool. We're making good progress. So rule 10. So again, if we're working virtually, maximize the tech or you'll minimize your effectiveness. So again, if your internet connection's dropping out, cutting out, and a really poor connection, you're not going to be getting very good work out of your employees that are working off of the premises. Nikki has it written down and discussed at every quarterly meeting with the owners. Brilliant. That's great. So that's written down. They're going to be getting there, really. Super. Thanks, Nikki. So technology, really, you've got to find the right tool for the right job. Yeah, so we want to get a hammer for hammering nails. A screwdriver doesn't work when you're trying to hammer in a nail. The screwdriver works on screws, but not on nails. So video and recorded messages. So I know Interestingly, I sometimes mostly listen to 5 Live, Radio 5 Live in the mornings, and they're trying to get people to do voice notes now. So they're looking at voice notes to come in, and then they play the voice note, which makes it more, just more personal, really, isn't it, to that message? It's a good little tool, that really, if people can get used to that. So had a recorded message rather than just someone sending in an email or a text message. But again, try and work out. I've got certain clients that I know if I send a text, they'll reply. If I send an email, it's a better place for them to reply. And then others, I just need to pick up the phone. And that's probably the most easy way, really, isn't it? It's picking up the phone, not hiding behind emails or social media. Just pick up the phone and going, just checking you've got this, just checking you've got that, or just catching up, certainly by phone, or now, which is better if you want, through Zoom, as we're on Zoom, or Teams, or any other platform that you can use for video conferencing, really. Then you can really see whether someone's a bit more clued in or not, really. So you've got those different messages there. Just as an example, just ask the question, what are you finding the best ways when people are working from home? What are the best ways of keeping in contact with your team? If you could perhaps jot that down, I'm just keen to see whether it's email, is it video calls, phone in, WhatsApp groups, what is it? That would be really great if you could do that. Oh, Alexander's put in, has anyone of you tested tools like online engagement tools like, no, or Kona, Slackbot to lead and engage your team? Interesting. That'd be one to check out once we've saved the chat in the recording. Thanks for that, Alexander. Video calls, Hannah saying about how keeping in contact with your team. So video calls works best for Hannah. Great. Anyone else? Oh, we've got Slack. Yeah, I've heard of that. WebEx, brilliant. Video calls, Hannah. Cool. Slack or Teams. Interesting. Yeah. Video calls, so team meetups outside the office. Teams. Teams seems very popular, isn't it? Yeah. Interesting. We're on Zoom and no one's put Zoom. Ooh. Poor old Zoom. Interesting. Lovely. Thanks for that. So again, make sure people have got the right tech to be able to do their jobs when they're working from remotely. Otherwise, it's going to be really awkward and really difficult. Yeah, Connie's put a little emoji. Perfect. Yeah, could be emojis, really, and that's a good one. Excellent way of communicating at times. So rule 11 we're looking at now. So we're getting there. Examine your belief. So again, going back to a song, the Michael Jackson song, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. So again, looking back at the person. So what is your self-talk? So what are you talking to yourself, subconsciously or consciously, that what's yourself like? Self-talk like. So again, if you think it's true, it's true. If you think it's whatever it may be, so if you think you can do it, you're halfway there to doing it, really. So think on, again, for yourself, what is it? What is my belief? How am I looking at this? Is this something I can do, or is this something you're talking yourself out of? For sure. So again, start with that man in the mirror or woman in the mirror, for sure. Rule number 12, accept that you can't do it all, which is a great rule, really, isn't it? A lot of my businesses that I've worked with over the years, they've really, the penny has dropped, and it's like a light bulb moment that they realise, well, I can't do everything. I do need to delegate out to other team members and actually get team members. One of my clients have gone from, they started with 4 people. They've got 15 people in the team now. Another guy, they've gone from sort of 30 to 50. And it's like, wow, they've really got that light bulb moment that they can't do it all. They can delegate out to people. So find a balance between being responsible to your organisation, if you like, but taking care of yourself. So again, if you've had a holiday this summer, did you take your laptop? Did you take your mobile phone? I'm sure you probably took your phone, but did you take your laptop? I took my phone, hands up, and I did check my emails at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. But during the day, I didn't look at my phone. I didn't check it. Didn't check it at all, which I felt was quite that. But that's the nature of my business. I seem to get away with that. Whereas certainly my brother-in-law was a bit of overlap on our holidays, and he had his phone, his laptop, his iPad, everything. You just think, well, that's not in my world. That's not a holiday, really. He's not taking care of himself. So look at your organization's sort of process and workflow. So we're looking at the processes and workflows that you're working at. What systems and processes have you got in place that mean that you can leverage your time? So once you've explained something once, you don't need to keep explaining it. You've actually got, you've got it in place there for the next time. So identify what your team can do and learn to delegate effectively and successfully to leverage, again, as I say, leverage your time. So what we're looking at really in the cycle of business, the business owner or business leader should be training the team so they can cope with anything that the customers throw at them. Just check the cut. Listen, Nikki, our general manager won't allow us to have our work email on our mobile, so we have to switch off outside of working hours. Brilliant. That's good. That's looking after you, isn't it? Cool. Excellent. So as owners, looking after the team, training the team up so they could, in fairness, get a job wherever they like, but treat them so well they don't, because the team then will look after your customers or clients, whichever you want to call them, and then the customers look after the business. Because previously, you could be the business owner, get involved with the customers, you're getting involved with your team, you're getting involved with the business, and it's just everything is coming back to you. But if you're doing that, why have a team? You don't need a team if you're going to be doing it on your own. Make sure you have a team, make sure the team is working for you. So this should be the cycle of business, really. Or this happens, I love this picture here. You can see there that the busy business owner, usually a man who's a superhero, no one can do this as well as I can. And I often ask, what, no one in the whole world is as good at doing this as you are? There's not many people that can say that, is there, about anything? But he's the busy business owner, and everyone else is just busy watching him. So happy days for those guys, really. And I like the bit where it's the health and safety guys leaning on his spade there. That's quite cool. Brilliant. So we have got 9 steps to systemizing a business. So that kind of links into systems and processes, which are covered in another webinar. We're on schedule to finish at 5 o'clock. So systems, so these 2 slides really link together so for helping yourself lead, is that management after the leadership, really. So we've got instant systems for systemizing the business, and then you've got there 7 keys to a winning team. So we've got another little slide deck on having the 7 keys. So where things like, where is the business heading? What are the rules of the game? How are we going to get successful? So we know those winning slides. So we've got systemizing the team, the business, and kind of systemizing the team or helping the team develop and grow. So hopefully that makes sense. But that for another session, really. At the moment, then, have we got any questions? Anything burning questions anyone wants to ask? You can certainly ask now, or feel free to contact me after the session. It's not a problem. Any questions? Any questions? I say, I can sip of water. Anything going in the chat box? Go in the chat box. Cool. Okay, that's fair enough. Now then, if you can think of perhaps 1 to 3 ideas that maybe you need to take action on. So it might be things that you think, well, actually, that struck a chord. Bear in mind, I will send out the slides to everyone who's got you've got your email. So hopefully, if if you've come through Eventbrite, I will have your email. And if you've come through, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, if you come through LinkedIn, I can send it the slide deck through from LinkedIn. So I just want to quickly just check. I've got everyone: Hannah, Angela, Connie. Just make a quick note. 1 second. Nikki, Angela. Any questions? Connie. Sure. Brilliant. Michelle. Henry. Brilliant. Alexander. So if you think I haven't got your email, if you like the slides, feel free to pop your email in the chat, and then I'll make sure that we send you out the slides there, and so you've got everything. So that would be great. Super. And then, 1 second, let's put that chat. 1-to-1 since April. So we're booking those in the net. Oh, brilliant. So Hannah's going to be doing some 1-to-1s. Brilliant. Hannah's gone. The other Hannah's gone. So that's great. No problem, Hannah. So last little point, really. A complimentary business growth session I've allocated. I said at the start, really, we've got 2 gifts, really. One would be a complimentary session to look at the 9 ways of systemizing your business and the 7 keys to a winning team. And then I've also produced this new tool, really, so you can spend 3 minutes filling in a questionnaire. So I'll send the link through with the slides, and it's a next level assessment, and you fill in your assessment, and again, you can see what you need to be perhaps focusing on the next 90 days. So that just brings the session to a close. If I stop the share and go back into the main screen. Brilliant. I'd like to thank everyone for their participation. Thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed the session. I'll just save the chat, and look forward to speaking with you again soon. So bye for now. Thanks very much.